Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and today I have 5 beautiful thrift flips from my recent dump haul, and mostly summertime look. First one was this half a table that we got at the dump that I showed you in a recent dump haul. Not real wood, at least not all of it, and it has a kind of attractive looking floral on it, but the colors just really don't look amazing with it. It really looks kind of grungy. So even though I cleaned it, I just couldn't keep it as is. And I have this beautiful Venus teal color that I think is gorgeous. I got at Home Depot in the sample section for $5. So I went ahead and I painted this with 2 coats of that beautiful color, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to keep all 3 panels as they were because I really liked the blue on the front drawer. But in the end, I decided to just keep the front and to paint the other 2 panels. The Papa Blue really did look pretty. It was just enough cottage color, and I think that came out better. And then I went ahead and I white waxed the whole thing, and that was all I did to this piece, and I think it came out really beautiful, very cottage. And I have already listed it on Craigslist, so hopefully I will get a buyer soon. And that takes me on to item number 2. This is a glass little jar I got for free on the good table at the dump. It had a very pretty lilac colored top, and I thought it would be nice to just spruce it up. So I went out to the graphics fairy and I printed a couple of little vintage labels, and I just went ahead and decoupaged that onto either side of that top and bottom, just gently to keep that decoupage off of the glass. I just wiped around that so that it doesn't leave a kind of sticky glue mess. So I like to keep that nice and clean. And then I did take my antiquing wax and I did that to both of the labels and just kind of wiped that off a little bit with a tissue, and then added a knob, furniture knob that I had hanging around, and that is the second one. I think that came out very sweet. I love that with my lavender, and I just dressed it up a bit. I could put candy in there. Maybe those Jordan almonds would be pretty in there. I could put potpourri in there or any number of things, but it would be pretty in the bathroom with bath salts. So if you have an extra pretty jar hanging around, you could paint the lid. Now, number 3, I decided once I had done to finish that to go into my stash of canisters, I guess you would say. I had 2 different canisters, a small one and a large one, and I decided today was the day to go ahead and get this done. These have been in my craft room for well over a year. They also came from the good table at the dump. They have a beautiful seal on them, so I'm making sure not to paint inside at all. And I did give it 2 full coats to make sure that it was good and covered. And I also painted the lid that came with it, and just let that dry completely between the 2 coats. And then once I had 2 coats completely dry, I went into my craft room and I was going between rice paper, decoupage, or IOD transfers, and I actually decided on this one that I would do one of each, or some of each, I guess I should say. So once the 2 coats were completely dry, I went on to Graphics Fairy, and I think that I got this printable. Actually, it is from Graphics Fairy, but I believe I might have gotten it from Creative DIY Purpose. And so if you are not following her You Will Want to Be. Once I was finished with that, I did give that a coat of the clear coat Rust-Oleum before I did anything, because I wanted the transfer and this to decoupage onto it. So I printed 2 of those Graphics Fairy lavender labels, and I put one on the front and one on the back side, just decoupaging the actual label, and then just gently decoupaging on top of it without getting too much onto the white paint. Now, after I finished a label on each side, then again I took out that antique wax and got that whole thing a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of distressing to make it a little bit more vintage looking. And before I do that, I took out my lavender IOD transfers and decided to put a couple of those on the lid just to give that kind of a matching look to the rest of the jar, or canister, I guess technically. That's very easy to do. You've probably seen it many times. You just use the tool it comes with, gently lift it, press it down, either with the plastic or with your finger, just to make sure it adheres. Now, when you're finished with the transfer, and really honestly with the decoupage as well, you can just go ahead and spray that as well with the Rust-Oleum 2 times finish, because that'll definitely protect it, especially if you think at any time in the future you're going to have to wash it. And that I added, this is where I antique it a little bit, get a little bit of vintage feel going on there. And then I went through my stash of different twines and jute and all that until I found something that I liked for the just kind of around the top, and it came out very sweet. And once I was finished with this one, I decided that I would go on to the larger of these. Here, this one I gave a little bit more antique wax to. And then the second one, I wanted to use more IOD transfers because I am doing a beautiful set of picture frames, and I thought it would match nicely. So here is the lavender one with some of the other lavender pieces that I have made recently. And the next item I decided to do in sunflowers. So I have that beautiful IOD transfer, and I haven't used any or very many of them, so I really wanted to get to using that while it's still spring and summer before we end up doing fall. Although I do think personally that you can decorate in sunflowers for fall, although they grow here in the summertime in New England. The second one, which was quite a bit larger. So this time I wanted to use a color that wasn't just white. I had in my stash that I got at the dump 4 or 5 different colors that were pre-mixed, and this was almost a khaki green, and it goes well with some of the IOD, part of the IOD transfer, so I thought it would be good to do a color. Now, once I got the whole thing done, and it was fully dry, it was definitely a little too green, to almost army green for just leaving it exactly as it came out. It would be fine if I had more of that color, but I don't. And so I decided to, once that was completely dry, to dry brush over the green with the white, the linen white chalk paint, to keep some of the green so that it would poke through, but to add more of a farmhouse feel to it and brighten up the color, because really, honestly, I think it was just a little bit too dark. Now, I did give this 2 full coats because you could see through it, and then also the same on the lid. So then once that was completely dry, second coat was dry, I went ahead and dry brushed that white over the top. And you can see here that I'm just trying to sort of drag it, leaving some of that green showing through, but not a lot, just enough to peek through. Now the first paint is a latex and the second paint is a chalked paint, so I will have to spray this chalked paint for sure, otherwise it will wash off. And I did not paint the bottoms. Now I am looking for the best side here and then deciding what I want to do. I wanted to add this sunflower to the front and have it go over just a little bit on the corner. And I think that makes the transfer lift up easier if you go around a corner. It can be tricky, but if you kind of do that side first, sometimes it'll make the whole thing come off, and that went very quickly for me. You could see it almost lift right away when I go down over the corner of it. So once I got that done, I added the stem and some leaves, and that was all I did to this one. I opted not to put anything on the lid, although I did think about putting sunflower or bird seed, or I could put a word on there, and I can do that later on if I decide that I want to, but not knowing exactly what was going to be happening with this canister, I decided not to. You can do the stem first, or you can do the stem after. Depends on where you're going to put your leaf. And then just kind of rub that down a little bit with the plastic that it comes with. And again, I wanted to make sure that the one of the leaves went over the side on the other side, give a little bit more dimension, a little more character to the piece. You can see how easy it is. If you catch an air bubble, it just kind of lifts the whole thing right off. And then again, I did go through to see if I had any more twine. I had plenty of different ones that I had picked up over at Home Goods, I believe, on a roll, a wooden roll. I just added the top, I added the twine, and that came out so beautiful. I'm glad I left that green poking through. I think it was just enough to pick up some of the green on the flower. And then that takes me on to item number 5. My husband brought home from the dump this week this little wooden box. It was in hunter green, and the top slides on and off. And the hunter green is a little too primitive country for me, so I just went ahead and took the same linen white chalked paint since I had it out and gave that 2 coats. Both the box, exterior of the box, as well as the lid. I did not paint the interior because I kind of wanted it to be green inside. Also, sometimes when it slides, it can eat away at the paint, so you just want to be careful when you have something like that. Now, the picture inside of this was, what are those called? Clovers. Pretty little clover flowers in a couple of different pinky, purple colors. I thought they were sweet, and certainly I could add anything in here. And it opens from the back. It's like a little window. You just open it and put another picture in there. So I thought, obviously, this would be great to switch out for the seasons. I also could distress the edges and let some of the green show through. I opted not to do that in this video. I can always go back and do that if I decide that it needs a little bit more of the green showing through. Now, once both of those coats were dry, I just looked through my stuff to see what I could display, and I did not have anything in that pinky color except for like one small greenery that I had gotten at the dollar store, but I thought it came out really sweet. So I tucked a little in the box and a little on top of the box, and that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed today. Please let me know which was your favorite, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.